13 American military bases just wiped off the map, not by some hypothetical future threat, not by a tabletop war game scenario, by Iranian strikes that left 40,000 US troops scrambling for hotel rooms across the Middle East. And the White House calls this a victory. That is where we are today. And honestly, it gets worse from here. We have got markets clinging to ceasefire hopes like a life raft, 60% of Americans now saying they never wanted this war in the first place, Russian intelligence reportedly reading the Pentagon's private messages, and Trump, right in the middle of all of this, booking a flight to Beijing. Stay with me, because the most interesting part is waiting for you at the end. If this kind of honest, no-spin reporting matters to you, hit that like button and subscribe. We spend hours digging through sources, cross-checking facts, making sure nothing here is recycled propaganda. If you want to go further, consider sponsoring the channel or using super thanks. It genuinely keeps this work alive. Now let us get into it. So here is the picture. Iranian strikes have rendered 13 US military installations across the Middle East uninhabitable. We are not talking cracked windows. Facilities so damaged that roughly 40,000 service members had to be relocated, some to hotels, some pushed out of the region entirely. 40,000 people. That is a small city displaced overnight, and this is happening while the administration insists Iran has been, quote, decisively degraded. You know what is interesting? When you decisively degrade someone, you usually do not end up evacuating your own positions. You cannot run sustained military operations when your infrastructure is in ruins. Every supply chain, every command center that relied on those bases now has to be rerouted or abandoned. And the cost? North of $200 billion and climbing. But wait, that is not all. Because this is not just a military story. This is a story about what Washington says versus what is actually happening on the ground. And here is where it gets really important. The contradiction between the White House and Tehran right now is almost surreal. Trump says, and I am quoting here, they are negotiating, they want a deal, but they are afraid to admit it. Iran's foreign ministry fires back the same day. There are no negotiations. There are messages exchanged through intermediaries. So which is it? Are we negotiating or are we not? Investors are trying to read the tea leaves, and the signals are a mess. Oil still above $100 a barrel, Treasury yields dropping as people run towards safety. One strategist put it bluntly, we are not on the right side of this conflict to be buying. It will likely get worse before it gets better. And you know what happened next? The markets closed in the green anyway. The S&P 500 gained 0.5%. Smaller companies nearly 1%. Why? Because traders decided to bet on de-escalation. Not because there is evidence, mind you. Just because a prolonged war with $100 oil is too terrifying to price in. Optimism becomes a survival mechanism when the alternative is global recession. Now look, here is the domestic side, and it is just as chaotic. 60% of Americans now say they oppose the war with Iran. That is not a fringe opinion. That is a majority. And it puts the administration in an incredibly uncomfortable position, especially with Trump's own self-imposed deadline ticking down. He gave it 5 days at the start of the week. We are burning through those days and there is no breakthrough in sight. But that is only half the story. Because while the public is turning against the war, Congress has its own drama. The Save America Act, the bill that was supposed to reform federal spending, is stuck, dead in the water, and not because Democrats blocked it. Republicans are fighting among themselves. The internal fractures within the party are so deep that they cannot even agree on their own legislation. And here is a detail that says everything about the mood in Washington right now. Delta Airlines quietly cut off special perks for members of Congress during the government dysfunction. No more priority boarding, no more lounge access. Their message was basically, pay your bills first, then we will talk about your legroom. It is a small thing, but symbolically, it is devastating. This is where it gets even more interesting. Inside the Trump administration itself, cracks are showing that go far beyond policy disagreements. A conservative commentator went on air to openly discuss removing Trump from office. Now, Is this going to happen? Almost certainly not. But the fact that this conversation is happening within the right wing, not from the opposition, not from cable news pundits, but from inside the conservative movement, that tells you something about the depth of frustration. And then there is the signal scandal. Here is the short version. The Secretary of Defense was using the encrypted messaging app Signal for sensitive communications. Normal enough, right? Except Russian intelligence, specifically military intelligence, reportedly exploited vulnerabilities in the app. We are talking about potential access to conversations involving senior Pentagon officials. The very tool they chose for security may have been compromised by the people they were trying to keep out. Russian hacking groups have also ramped up attacks on American infrastructure, so you have a White House leaking from the inside, getting hacked from the outside, and fighting a war that most of its own citizens do not support. Let me explain why this affects every single one of you. If you are watching this and thinking, well, that is Washington's problem, think again. Every dollar spent rebuilding those 13 bases, every market swing driven by contradictory statements, every day this war drags on without resolution, it all flows downhill. Into gas prices, into interest rates, into the jobs market, into the money in your pocket. And if you are finding value in this breakdown, take a second to drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. Are we headed for a deal with Iran, or is this going to escalate further? Your comments actually help this video reach more people, and I read every single one. And now here is the part I saved for last, because it might be the biggest story of the week. While all of this chaos is unfolding, while bases are burning and markets are swinging and Congress is paralyzed, Donald Trump is packing his bags for Beijing. The White House confirmed that Trump will meet Xi Jinping on the 14th and 15th of May. This will be his first trip to China in 8 years. The visit was postponed multiple times, trade disputes, tariffs, then the war with Iran. The fact that it is finally happening tells you something. The administration wants to project confidence even as everything at home is on fire. The press secretary announced the First Lady and the President will also host President Xi in Washington. A return visit already planned. But here is the question nobody wants to answer. What exactly is Trump going to negotiate with? The agenda has ballooned. Tariffs, technology competition, energy security, the Strait of Hormuz, China's role in the Middle East, Taiwan. That is not a summit. That is a wish list. And the timing could not be more loaded. You are sending the president to meet the leader of America's biggest strategic rival while 40,000 of your troops are sleeping in hotels, while your own party cannot pass its own bills, while your intelligence apparatus might be compromised. Beijing sees all of this. Every crack, every contradiction, every poll number. And they will use it. One analyst called it a mix of ceremony and hard diplomacy, like a wedding where the bride and groom are negotiating the prenup at the altar. Asian markets reacted cautiously. Who can blame them? So here we are. 13 bases down, 40,000 troops displaced, markets trading on hope instead of fundamentals, a majority of Americans opposing the war, Congress unable to legislate, the administration cracking from within, Russian hackers inside the system, and the president flying to China. If that is not the definition of a country trying to do everything at once and struggling with all of it, I do not know what is. Every time you hit that like button or leave a comment, you are not just supporting this channel. You are telling YouTube's algorithm that independent reporting like this deserves to be seen. And that matters more than you might think. Producing this kind of content, the research, the fact-checking, the verification, it takes real time and real effort. If you believe in what we are doing here, consider becoming a channel sponsor or using super thanks. Your support is what keeps this work independent. No corporate backers, no editorial pressure. Just the facts and the analysis you deserve. Thank you for being here, genuinely. This community is what makes all of it worth doing. I will see you in the next one, and trust me, there will be plenty to talk about.